Good morning and welcome to the 34th Annual Motorola Solutions Foundation Excellence in Public Service Award Breakfast. On behalf of the Civic Federation and Motorola Solutions Foundation, we are delighted to be here with all of you this morning. My name is Joe Ferguson, and I have the privilege of leading the 132-year-old Civic Federation, whose founders include Jane Addams, embodying the public service leader-servant ethos that this event is about. I'm truly grateful that you have joined us today to honor Erin Aleman, the Executive Director of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which I will ask you also to offer applause for. Our last few events have brought remarkable energy, despite what some might consider the staid reputation of those of us in government service, past and present. And I expect today will be no different, as I know Erin has many friends and a beautiful family that I get to look at directly as I'm speaking to all of you, and many, many admirers in the room. So I'm giving you full license to bring your biggest cheers and as much of the spirit of celebration as can be mustered at 8:30 on a Thursday morning in December. Later in the program, you'll also get to hear Erin in conversation with her friend and mentor, Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle. Personally, I'm looking forward to hearing where that discussion goes. At this time, I'd like to recognize past recipients of this award who are joining us this morning. Dorval Carter, who was honored at the time of his leadership of the Chicago Transit Agency. Julie Hamos, longtime public servant. And I'm going to ask them all to stand simultaneously, so if you could just hold off applause. Arnold Randall. And last year's recipient, Juan Salgado. Additionally, we're joined by several of our advisory committee members who selected Erin from this year's incredibly talented and dedicated group of nominees. The advisory committee members, all past honorees, Erin's impressive bio, and this year's generous sponsors are listed in the digital program, which can be accessed by scanning the QR code at your table. We're also pleased to have an impressive group of current public officials with us in the room today, and I will say, the dedication of a number of elected officials to the really challenging moment we find ourselves in the city of Chicago actually has suppressed a little bit of the turnout, but it actually is a tribute to the fact that with dedication and a broader vision for service to all, actually often antagonistic oppositional parties actually come together to work for the greater good. So I'm going to name some names, but those who can't be here, there were a number of them. Erin, understand that there were a lot of people who wish they could be in the room, but who can't because of things going on over at City Hall this morning. With us today from the state of Illinois, we have Illinois Representatives Will Davis, Evadina Delgado, Illinois Department of Transportation Secretary Gia Biaggi, Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frerichs. From Cook County, we have, or will soon have, Board President Tony Preckwinkle, Cook County Clerk Monica Gordon, Board of Review Commissioner George Cardenas, Department of Transportation Director of Strategic Planning Jesse Elam, and from the City of Chicago, in the cluster of the City of Chicago, we have Juan Salgado, who I noted earlier. So a round of applause for those public servants. And before turning you over to the MC, I'm going to do something that it's fairly standard practice, me saying a few remarks that aren't on the paper in front of me to make my staff nervous. We live in a time of chaos. That's both a description And unfortunately, it's also a strategy. Chaos by some is prompted. It's called crisis. And then we all try to have a conversation in the midst of that chaos and crisis. There are power dynamics that come from that. And amidst all of that, and actually, I'm going to go way, way off script. Chaos. According to a character in a dialogue in Game of Thrones, chaos is a ladder. And there are those on the extremes that actually view it and speak of it that way. The ladder is government service. And the people who actually build and maintain that ladder are the unrecognized, appointed government officials. And that is what this event is about, and it is what Motorola Solutions Foundation, in its 34th year of sponsoring this event, actually brilliantly identified as a deficit in our annual cycle of award giving. And so I want to thank them for that vision, and for the most important thing, maybe, for vision-oriented people, is a persistence and insistence on the North Star that makes a vision something that actually becomes a reality. So thank you, Motorola Solutions Foundation. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce this morning's MC, Kyle Schultz. Kyle works very closely with Erin at CMAP as the new Deputy Strategic Advancement Chief. Prior to joining CMAP, he served as Chief Growth Officer for World Business Chicago, where he helped create jobs for the region and played a key role in bringing the Psi Quantum campus to our city, along with many other major economic investment projects. He's also held roles with the Schaumburg Business Association and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, among others. And we're thrilled to have him MC this morning's event. Welcome, Kyle.
Appreciate the warm intro. Good morning, everyone. Good job. We're all prepared for President Preckwinkle. Thank you, Joe. I'm excited to be with you all this morning and guide us through this celebration of Erin as your MC. As Joe mentioned, I have the pleasure of working closely with Erin at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or because it's a government agency, the acronym CMAP for short. I joined the CMAP team about 105 days ago. And I joined this team in part because of those leadership qualities that Erin exhibits on a daily basis that we will be celebrating this morning. Joe mentioned it a moment ago. Public service matters. And as I wrote and reflected on that sentence, it's always mattered, but during these times, it feels even more especially for our region. Our region's history is rooted in a tradition of creating a future that we want. Each bold chapter is marked by the commitment of public servants that led that future into being. And the past has made Chicagoland a global super region today. We are a center of commerce with the 21st largest economy in the world, featuring the most diverse set of industries in the United States, anchored by world-class institutions and talented residents that are the envy the world over. But we also face real challenges, and I know everyone in this room can name those challenges, so I won't list them off during a celebratory morning. But what gives me hope, and what should give all of us hope, are public servants like Erin and agencies like CMAP under her leadership. Core to CMAP is that belief in the Chicagoland tradition that we can make a future we aspire to if we work together, invest in our communities, and coordinate our efforts across the region. Erin brings this to life on a daily basis. I've seen firsthand Erin doing the hard, often unseen work of bringing people together across jurisdictions, sectors, and lived experiences. She epitomizes the ideals of public leadership. She leads with empathy. She engages with curiosity. She brings her authentic self into every single room. She makes those value-add connections that keeps us moving forward. And she's guided by a deep understanding how every part of our complex region contributes to the greater whole. It's truly a privilege to work for this type of leader and to be able to celebrate her this morning with all of you, because the future she is guiding is a one that embodies the spirit and tradition of Chicagoland, as well as public service. Now, it's time for that delicious breakfast that we've all been waiting for. I will be back soon for the main event, presenting the Excellence in Public Service Award to Erin Aleman. But before breakfast, let's hear from Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. I am honored to celebrate this year's Excellence in Public Service Awards honoree, Erin Aleman. As the CMAP Executive Director, Erin has brought communities together across neighborhoods and sectors to build a stronger, more connected region. She embodies this year's event theme, Government Done Well, and she leads with vision, collaboration, and integrity. Erin and the CMAP team's dedication to thoughtful planning and partnership is uplifting Chicago's communities and families. And on behalf of my administration, I thank her for her service and leadership. I also want to thank the Civic Federation for lifting up the work and the people who make government stronger and more effective for everyone. I look forward to our continued partnership to serve the people of Chicago. Congratulations, Erin. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Governor J.B. Pritzker. Each year, the Civic Federation recognizes an individual who has gone above and beyond in their work as a public servant, inspiring others to do the same with their visionary leadership. Congratulations to Erin Aleman, Executive Director of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, on receiving the 34th Motorola Solutions Foundation Excellence in Public Service Award. Your dedication to the state of Illinois and your commitment to serving the people who call it home shines through your efforts to improve our mass transit system. In driving sound policy, innovative solutions, and transformative change, you've embodied this year's theme, Government Done Well. Our public transit connects all of us to community and opportunity, carrying us to work, school, and the destinations that make up our lives. Thank you, Erin, for strengthening these connections through your dedicated work. May we all strive for your example in good government and serve our state with stable, sustainable, and resilient leadership. Congratulations, and thank you again for your steadfast efforts to serve all Illinoisans.
Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for bringing us back together with that wonderful tribute to Erin. And I have a personal thank you for assembling this room back together after that breakfast. The Civic Federation team and I hope you enjoyed that delicious breakfast provided by the Four Seasons Hotel team. Can we please give it up for this great group? They were exceptional, making sure the dishes got in place quickly and warm cups of coffee were served to keep us all caffeinated. Today's event would not be possible without the longtime partnership and generous support of the Motorola Solutions Foundation, our vanguard sponsor. We are delighted to have members of both the Motorola Solutions Foundation and Motorola Solutions team with us today, including our next speaker, Wesley Barden-Toohey. Wesley serves as the Executive Director of the Motorola Solutions Foundation, the charitable and philanthropic arm for Motorola Solutions. The foundation's purpose is to give back to the communities where its 22,000 employees live and work. As Executive Director, Wesley now leads the foundation's various initiatives, including strategic grants, employee volunteerism, and disaster relief support. Prior to joining the foundation, Wesley worked in fundraising, where she directed more than 25 capital campaigns and raised more than $24 million. Originally from Florida, Wesley has thankfully called Chicago home for the last 10 years. Please join me in welcoming Wesley Barden-Toohey.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kyle, for the introduction. I'm honored to be here today representing the Motorola Solutions Foundation and Motorola Solutions. With nearly a 100-year history in Illinois, we're incredibly proud to support this important award. This is a moment to recognize essential, non-elected public servants, the very individuals who anchor our communities, and to celebrate the incredible work they do each and every day. Public service is not the most glamorous line of work, but it's one of the most important. It's the engine that translates our government, laws, social values into the daily operations that propel our communities forward. Our public servants help ensure Illinois residents have the fundamental services they need to thrive. The work they perform is often unseen, yet we rely on them implicitly, especially in the most difficult and challenging moments. They are driven by an unwavering commitment to do what's best for each of us, and our communities are better because of their leadership. And our finest public servants, they embody a special blend of perseverance and empathy, compelling them to answer a truly noble calling. This morning, we're recognizing one of the finest, Erin Aleman, Executive Director of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. Erin is the very definition of a dedicated public servant, and the Motorola Solutions Foundation is proud to recognize her. As the first female executive director of CMAP, she oversees an agency of over 100 staff members. Her passion and leadership make her the ideal choice to spearhead CMAP's visionary On to 2050, the long-range strategic plan for Northeastern Illinois. This ambitious effort, which Erin and her team are driving today, will shape the next 25 years across 7 northeastern Illinois counties, addressing key issues from transportation and housing to economic development, open space, and the environment. Erin lives and breathes a philosophy of action every day, rolling up her sleeves to bring innovative thinking and profound impact to our ever-growing metro area. It is my absolute honor and privilege, on behalf of the Motorola Solutions Foundation, to present the Excellence in Public Service Award to Erin Aleman, Executive Director of CMAP. Now we're going to hear a few short words on Erin's accomplishments from her colleagues.
I would describe Erin as optimistic. You get a strong sense that she believes that there is a way we can solve problems together.
She brings her whole self to every aspect of her life. Those of us who've had the privilege of working with her, we've seen that in her and we've benefited from it.
I think that there is an innovation to her leadership style that's probably not traditional.
She is someone who fundamentally understands the tension in government between urgency and patience.
She's a really competent person. You know, she's not sort of flashy or no drama. just get the work done, you know.
Erin might not remember this, but our relationship goes back to the 2000s. I was managing a coalition called the Campaign for Sensible Growth, and we were involved in a piece of legislation that ultimately created the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning that we know today. Erin came on, she was a fellow, and I became acquainted with her then. I'm delighted that CMAP is being led by a planner. She understands the planning perspective, that regions aren't just one thing. So it's not just transportation, it's also the environment, it's housing, it's economic development. Erin understands how all the pieces fit together.
Erin is a collaborative, smart, dedicated leader. She's always thinking about where we're trying to go and not only focused on outputs, but outcomes. Erin and I are both urban planners, which in Chicago means you find each other. It's sort of a character of our city that was imagined by urban planners. Erin has been on sort of both sides of the fence, working on the nonprofit side, but also working for government. And so she's always had her fingerprints on making the city a better place from no matter where she is.
I met Erin actually when I took over this job in 2022. One of the areas that's a focus for us is transportation, with a particular emphasis on transit reform. And CMAP was just at that time undertaking a process called PART to think about what could be a new model for transit for the region. Through Erin's leadership at CMAP, they came up with the proposal that led to the transit legislation that essentially is going to bring CTA, PACE, and Metra under one roof. That was my main experience in working with her, that she was able to really drive a wonderful process that we all know ended up with a transformational piece of legislation in Springfield.
I've known Erin over 20 years. She came as a newly minted college graduate. She had her master's in planning, and she was enthusiastic and passionate about being able to do her work. Erin's lived experience allows her to be different than a lot of other leaders. She plans for a region that's very diverse. So how do you plan for not only urban, suburban, and ex-urban areas, but how do you plan for people who look very different than everybody else? I think that her lived experience allows her to be able to bridge that gap, to be empathetic.
We don't really have a regional planning body other than CMAP, so it's vital in that respect. And I think what she's tried to do in her tenure is expand the scope beyond the sort of roads and bridges and even transit into things like environmental sustainability and resilience. She's been doing the difficult work of trying to bring people together across the region, and there's nobody else that's doing that work. That makes CMAP kind of a unicorn, and her work critically important. Erin, congratulations for winning the Excellence in Public Service Award.
Congratulations, you deserved it.
Erin, congratulations. You deserve it. You're a model for all of us, and keep doing what you're doing.
Congratulations, Erin.
Congratulations, Erin. So proud of you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm very grateful to be here this morning, and I want to thank the Civic Federation for the work they do every year honoring public servants, and of course Motorola for sponsoring it. We appreciate it. You know, it's hard work to run a not-for-profit organization in this town, and Erin has done that well for quite some time. And so it's a pleasure to be here with her this morning to talk a little bit about the work that she does and why she does it. I'm going to ask her first to sort of talk about her journey to this job, the arc of her life, and then we'll talk more specifically about the work. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Well, it's a true privilege to be here. When Joe called me, I was flabbergasted is the only word that I can say, and just so honored that so many people thought about the work that we do at CMAP and the team. And so getting ready for this was a little bit of a trip down memory lane and how I got to planning. You know, I went to college and I studied fine arts. I studied printmaking, graphic design, intaglio and etching and lithography, and was really interested in fine arts, but not sure what I was going to do with that. And I took a class where you went into prisons and you taught English, theater, or art. And I did that for a couple years at the University of Michigan. And it really changed the way that I thought about people and the way that I thought about what I wanted to do with my career, because a lot of the art and the creative work that they were doing, whether it was writing or theater, was informed by their lived experience and the communities that they grew up in. And so that came through in the art that they were making, and I tried my best to bring in books and, you know, things that would help shape them as artists themselves. And it really got me thinking about how art could be an impactful way to give back to communities or help make communities better places. Now, this was like 22-year-old Erin who thought that like maybe art could be the best economic driver for communities. And you know, I think I've learned a little bit about, you know, the structures in place that really make neighborhoods where they end up how they are. But that was really my journey, and I was working at an art school in Cleveland at the time, and a professor was like, "You really love cities. Maybe you should try this urban planning program." And so I was like, I've never even heard of this. So I went to school, got my master's in urban planning at Cleveland State, and got my first job as a fellow at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. So where I worked for Hubert, who you saw in the video, who is a master facilitator, who taught me the importance of listening, the importance of really thinking critically about what the community needs were, and again, that's sort of where my story starts.
Okay, you were an art student and a prison volunteer, and that led you to planning. That's quite an interesting path.
Yes, if I need it, yes, that's the synopsis.
Okay, you suggested, though, that art can be a driver of economic development. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Well, I oftentimes, to recharge, I'm walking around. In grad school, we spent a lot of time as graduate students picking neighborhoods and going for runs in different neighborhoods so we could see what was going on. I think some of the neighborhoods that were most inspiring to me were places that really felt like they had people that cared about it, that there was, you know, whether it's community art, or even thinking about the art that you experience when you get on the CTA, right? Those moments of just beauty and reflection that can be there, for me, I think is something that I always thought was personally inspirational. And so that's really where I began, again, this journey, thinking about the importance of making sure that our communities had beauty for everyone.
Now, of course, you're at CMAP.
I am.
Okay, so you talked about your inspiration from your work as an artist. What inspires you at CMAP?
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't say my team, who many of which are here, and my board members who are dedicated public servants. And I do think we've got a very new to career staff at CMAP, and they're always coming with lots of innovative ideas, and they're always trying to push the envelope in very positive ways. And I think that is one of the things that keeps me excited about CMAP. But you know, I also thought when I left grad school that I was going to be working at a community development corporation, maybe like knocking on doors, talking to people about affordable housing. And when I started working at CMAP, I really started to think about how fun it is to not only to do public meetings, although sometimes it's not fun, and do public meetings and really like focus on one place, but this idea of addressing the structures that connect us all. Again, when Hubert and I were going around the region doing these planning initiatives, we were talking to big communities and small communities, urban and rural, and what ties them all together is that they all care about kind of the same thing. It may look different on the outside, but it's high quality of life. They want affordable housing. They want a good place for their kids to go to school. They want it to be able to get to and from work easily. And so it's not only the people that I work with that inspire me, but I do think that at any time I go to a community and people are there to talk about what they're passionate about, I think that continues to help me think about how do we deliver some of these solutions better.
Okay, so a lot of work around the things that make communities successful, okay? But you also play a role in sort of promoting good government, which is the other part of the work that you do. The screen showed a little bit about PART and the work you did to sort of lay the foundation for the transformative legislation that was just passed in the veto session around transit. But how more broadly do you see your role in promoting good government?
Yeah, I think CMAP plays a really critical role in promoting good government. And the work that we did in 2023 to develop the plan of action for regional transit, which I am just so incredibly proud of, one of the things that we had in that report was that we needed $1.5 billion for our transit system, and because we couldn't just fill the hole. So, consensus building isn't always a fun job or a job that somebody comes and says, like, thank you. But I do want to thank my board members, my board chair, Mayor Bennett, you who serve on the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I think CMAP can play a critical role in helping people see beyond their current daily challenges in their communities or their counties that they're dealing with. I really feel like it's our job to continue to inspire people to think about what could be. And it's hard when you're like getting calls and getting yelled at and have 5 legislators wanting to knock on your door to really be visionary. And so I want to keep CMAP in that space where we can help communities and leaders, civic leaders, deliver on their vision in a way that helps make sure that the 8.5 million people that call the Chicago region home is successful.
Thank you. I described the transit legislation as transformative. Why don't you talk in a little more detail about the role that CMAP played, both, as I said, laying the kind of research foundation and then continuing to advocate?
Yeah, so bill sponsor, Representative Delgado, is here. Congratulations to you. I mean,
stand up, Ebedina.
Yeah.
Let me just say, in the Senate, Senator Ram Vilivalam carried the measure, and in the House it was Cam Buckner and Ebedina Delgado. Full disclosure, the person who carried most of the water was Ebedina. So
it's so true. But the story is like all of a sudden it was like I got notice that a bill was going to drop that was asking CMAP to deliver a report to the General Assembly that looked at funding the future of transit and governance, which is like the last thing any other government wants to comment on is like some other government's governance structure, right? Hey, here's how to do your business. So the great team at CMAP, our friends at the Civic Consulting Alliance and Rebecca spent some time thinking about like, okay, can we run this like a transition, right? Can we think about the most important things that need to be embedded in this report, and can we bring together experts? And so the legislation also asked us to bring together civic, business, environmental, labor union representatives together to help sort of provide some foundation as we went into these discussions. And so there have been many reports done on transit across the region over the past decade, and I don't know that the recommendations for governance reform, we had 2. One was strengthen or have a new regional body, the NETA board, which ultimately got put forward, or you could think about collapsing them all into one agency. Both are hard. We also spent a lot of time thinking about talking to people about what they wanted for transit for the region, and I think one of the biggest takeaways that we heard was nobody wants to spend a ton of money and get the same system that we have today. Like, that's a disservice to the public to spend all this time and all this energy just to close the gap. Nobody likes the system today. No, they like having it. It's really important, but we want to do better. We want connections. We've heard from the disability community how important it is for people to be able to access jobs and get on trains and move across the region in a way that they can't today, that those investments are too big for us to pass up at this time. And so we spent a lot of time looking at, how could we, looking to Europe, we looked to Germany to think about what could be. It took legislators there, thanks to some other partners in the room as well, and Derek Douglas and the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club. We wanted to think beyond today. So all of those things were included. How can we increase service? How can we look at places where there are jobs today where there's no transit access? And how do we fund these things? So our report was really focused on transportation funding for transportation uses. I know there were lots of other ways to solve this, but I do truly believe after Tuesday's bill signing this week, that we have set the bar high for the rest of the nation, that we are making a transformational investment in our transit system for people, and it's not going to turn around tomorrow, but I do think we will be proud that our system has the resources that it needs to be able to move forward. And so we spent a lot of time just like educating legislators, being a resource. I mean, we weren't driving this boat for sure. We were just there as a trusted advisor, bringing people together. And I'm so proud of the leadership of our board and our civic leaders like you, who were able to sort of continue to take what we put on paper and move it through the General Assembly.
Yeah, I think, CMAP's role was critical, both in getting the conversation started and having sort of a briefing book for legislators and other elected officials who may not have been as familiar with our transit challenges as we would hope. So we're very grateful for that work. And again, grateful to our legislative leaders, particularly Representative Delgado. Thank you. So I'm no fool. I asked Erin what questions she wanted asked. So, all right, the next question. Influential leaders and mentors in your life.
Yeah, well, Hubert, of course, to begin my planning career, is such a mentor to me. So thank you for being here, Hubert. I think you've had a huge impact on my career and really helped me think about how I approach people and communities in a meaningful way. Of course, my family's right here in the front, so thanks to my family. Yeah. There were a couple other really unique people in my planning career and in my undergraduate career that I met. Norm Krumholtz, who was the city planning director for Cleveland. He taught my intro to planning class, and he worked for Dennis Kucinich, and he was really all about like action and rolling up your sleeves. So if you're a planner, I see a couple of you in the room, maybe that's a name that you know. Grace Lee Boggs, who was a member of the Black Panthers in Detroit. I got to sit in her living room and hear from her about how she was thinking about change and the work that she did in the 70s. So those are some, but I also think I look to people like you as well. I mean, your passion, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, but your passion for public service, I know it's not necessary, but I think it's one of the reasons why I was just so thrilled to have you be willing to take the time to spend with me this morning and have a conversation, is a true testament of leaders like you who care about the public first. And so thank you. Thank you for all you do, too.
All right, so since we're talking about leaders, leadership lessons.
Leaders are what? Oh,
leadership lessons.
Oh, leadership lessons.
These are your questions, remember.
Leadership lessons. It's a good one. It's a good one. Don't make President Preckwinkle mad. Okay, just building off that point for a minute. One of the things that you said to me that I think has been really impactful on my career is, you told me once that I'm not just an administrator, right? That it's one thing to lead an agency, but I have authority and agency in sort of the political realm in a way that I hadn't necessarily thought about in terms of where I sit in an agency. Oftentimes I'm like, I just bring people together. I'm the consensus builder. I'm gonna get yelled at because they can't actually call, somebody more important than me to yell at me. And I think this idea, this concept that you planted in me where it was like you can utilize the tools that are around you in creative ways to help make things move forward is something that is a lesson learned. But that consensus doesn't mean everybody's happy, right? It's tough. But that you can do the right things and still go to bed and feel good about what you do, even if you didn't achieve the perfect policy priority too. I think that's a good lesson that keeps me sane.
Okay, I was kind of wrapping up here. What's your advice to young professionals?
Yeah, I think I have lots of conversations with young folks in my office all the time. Again, like they inspire me and keep me motivated. I think continuing to have an open dialogue, I think sometimes we're so interested in sort of being right that we forget about the fact that like you have to have a good conversation and there's some negotiation in there, and we're good at doing it. I was listening to something someone last week, and he was saying like we're really good at negotiating when it's like the doctor, right? They're like, take this because it's going to make you healthier, right? And you're like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I'll do it anyways. But what we're not good at is negotiating like people to people or community project to community project. Is that like you're like, oh, that sounds good, but not in my community, right? And so I do think that those are some of the lessons that I try to convey to our junior staff or to people that work at the agency, because it's tough work. And I think it's really easy to get down on the fact that maybe you didn't like get all of the things that you want, but you should be happy keeping the conversation going. And you really have to seek out those moments of opportunity. Like the transit legislation, there were a number of, it's been tried before and before and before and before, and you gotta keep going back, and it might feel like hitting your head up against a wall, but the opportunity, right? The people were different, the system was different, post-COVID was different, and it was about sort of the whole mix of those things. So really, I think continuing to work on forward progress is really important, not giving up.
All right. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, President Preckwinkle.
Now, my notes say we're going to take questions. Is that right or not? No, we're not taking questions. We're done. Is that what you're telling me? Oh, all right.
All right. My wife timed me. For any of you that know me, I enjoy speaking. I like my own voice, so my wife timed me. 2.5 more minutes. President Preckwinkle, thank you for the wonderful conversation. And Erin, I appreciate the continued opportunity to hear from you, learn from you, and be shaped by your leadership. Before I send you all on your way, I would like to take a few moments to thank the people whose efforts today made this possible. First, to the Civic Federation's longtime partner and Vanguard sponsor, Motorola Solutions Foundation. To the generous partner and advocate event sponsors, to the Civic Federation Board of Directors that are here today and support the organization year-round, with a special thank you to Board Chair Jill Wolwetsky, the Civic Federation membership, the support and production teams from Hoopla Communications and Mimi Productions, and the Civic Federation staff, especially Director of Development Jay Hobart, who made all of this happen today. If you've enjoyed this morning's program or are interested in getting more involved with the critical work of the Civic Federation, please let a team member know. Also, don't forget, at your table, there are QR codes if you want to support the Federation and their invaluable work. If you'd like to nominate one of Illinois' exceptional, non-elected public officials for next year's award, please stay tuned for our call for nominations this summer, which can't get here soon enough after this miserable start to winter. Finally, it's time to announce our giveaway winners. One winner will receive a one-night stay for two at the Four Seasons, and a second winner will receive a stay plus breakfast at the Radisson Blu. Oh, and I get to do this. Fun. The first winner is Mark Heckler. Mark, please come up and see Jay. And the second winner is Kelly Schneider. There's that. Thank you all again for being here today to celebrate Erin. It's been a pleasure to serve as your MC, and I'm wishing you a healthy and positive 2026 and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.